All right, folks, this is Harris Sultan. Yesterday was another atrocious and violent day in the history of how Europe fell. A refugee randomly stabbed 3 people to death and injured many more in the German city of Solingen. The police launched a massive manhunt and searched for the suspect in, surprise, surprise, refugee centers. Earlier reports suggested that he was shouting Allahu Akbar. Yes, the same chant that Muslim apologists tell us that it just means God is great. Yeah, God is great. ISIS has claimed responsibility, and the Islamist terrorist group said in a statement published on its news site that the attacker targeted Christians to avenge Muslims in Palestine and everywhere. They hate you. I've told you so many times. They hate you.
It is from our religion that we have to hate them for the sake of Allah.
Let's not beat around the bush. We don't love each other. We're not on the same page. We are not friends. Does that make sense? We are enemies.
You see, the guy was a refugee. And when people like us asked, how do you know that these fighting age men who are coming into Western countries in thousands, actually hundreds of thousands, in fact, it's in millions in America, are not ISIS or jihadis? How do you know that? You know what they said? You're heartless and racist. And look, these unvetted, uninvited, illegal migrants are killing the natives in large numbers. But you are not allowed to say it because you are a far-right thug. Anyway, Saturday's arrest happened in a refugee center in Solingen. Earlier that same day, police detained a 15-year-old refugee who allegedly had prior knowledge of the attacks but did not tell anyone. Even their kids don't like you. Let me remind you, a few months ago, an Afghan refugee fatally stabbed a police officer who, unfortunately, due to poor woke training, went to restrain a native German thinking he was a troublemaker when he was just trying to get the Afghan attacker off his mate. That proved to be a fatal mistake for the poor police officer. I made a video on that incident in detail. You can watch it separately. The link's below in the description. It's not just violent stabbings. It's also sexual crimes against the natives. We think Britain is bad. I think Germany is facing the worst migrant crime spree. Check out these stats published by the German government. Afghans and Africans make up less than 2% of the German population, yet they are responsible for 34% of the rapes of German women. In comparison, Germans make up 88% of the population while being responsible for only 34% of the rapes. Well, I said only in comparative terms. I mean, there shouldn't be any rapes, but it just tells you that if Germany wasn't being so compassionate in giving refuge to these fighting-aged, asylum-seeking men in such large numbers, the number of rapes would have been much lower. But you can't talk about it. Anyway, that's not all. Yesterday, a Spaniard was killed by 3 Moroccan asylum seekers as well. Consequently, around 1,000 Spaniards came out, surrounded a mosque and protested. It's kind of similar to what happened in Britain in the wake of the Southport massacre, but the difference is their government couldn't gaslight their public because they got the nationality and immigration status of the perpetrators right. This is exactly what I kept saying after the Southport massacre, that yeah, sure, they got the religion and immigration status wrong this time, but what are you going to do when it happens again and they get it right? Would you listen to them more then? Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, they're not sending their best and brightest. Look, I'm sure many of them are decent people, trying to make a good life as well, but I'm sorry, when these crimes are going to take place in such large numbers, and when these migrants are changing the very fabric of Western society, then sooner or later, people have to raise their hands and say, sorry, you might be coming from a war zone, but we can't do anything because when we gave you refuge, you murdered our children. There is nothing wrong in saying that. You've been guilt-tripped into somehow feeling responsible for the misery of the people who couldn't run their own countries properly. It's not the West's fault that Hosni Mubarak or Muammar Gaddafi were mad tyrants and their people eventually rose up against them. The West is not responsible for destabilizing those countries. If anything, the West mistakenly helped them get rid of their lunatic dictators. Secondly, even if it was the West's fault, Ordinary Westerners don't owe anything to these people for the mistakes of their governments. But I don't believe that it was the West's fault. If America intervenes, America is the bad guy. If America doesn't intervene, America is still the bad guy. This is why populist leaders like Trump promise no intervention. I'm actually against that. I believe in a strong interventionist America. If we don't have America policing the world, then we will be policed by China or Russia. Well, not Russia. Russia can't even conquer Ukraine. Sorry, anyway, I got sidetracked. That's not all. In another incident in Birmingham, in the last 24 hours, a man slashed the throat of a white man who was pushing a pram along with his partner. The whole incident was captured by the perpetrator's friend. Sorry, it's too violent for me to show you, but I'll tell you how violent it was. 3 guys approached a man minding his own business and then slashed at his neck. And instantly we see a lot of blood pouring out of the man's neck. And then he collapses. Miraculously, he survived and is in a stable condition. 3 men, aged 34, 29, and 26, and a 22-year-old woman remain in custody as police inquiries continue, and I think they've been charged with attempted murder, but don't quote me on that yet. Just to give you an idea, in the last 30 days in the UK, there have been 45 stabbings, 3 adults killed, and 6 children killed. I'm sorry, this is not normal. Forget about who's committing these crimes. We all know that. So let's just ignore that for now, yeah? Why is the British government not talking about knife crime? They are releasing pedophiles and other criminals to make room for keyboard warriors, pensioners, women, and in some cases, children. Yeah, sure, they got angry and in some cases crossed the line, but this just tells you about the priorities of this government. Why are they not delivering swift justice to those who carry knives and machetes? Where are the special courts? Where are Keir Starmer's angry speeches? I'll tell you why. It's because knife crime by invaders is not a priority. If they were the natives, then sure, we would have seen swift justice, but since they have an agenda to somehow kill the native culture, they look the other way. I'm beginning to think that this is not incompetence, this is complicity. So here it is. In just one day in Europe, 3 killed in Germany, 1 killed in Spain, and 1 seriously injured in England. By the usual suspects. No policy shift. I hope my videos are informing you about what's happening in these once beautiful Western countries. I hope it motivates you enough to raise your voice. And let me tell you, the best place to raise your voice is not YouTube comments. It's X. Get an account there. Follow the Met Police, the Home Office, and 2-tier Kia and raise your voice there. Trust me. It matters. It works over there. They're now even starting to disable comments under controversial posts like the propaganda videos of people getting arrested for social media posts. People are roasting the Home Office, Keir Starmer, and the relevant police departments for arresting people over frivolous incidents. Get on X. And you can also support this channel by going to patreon.com/Sultan or buy me a coffee on buymeacoffee.com/Sultan. Until next time, ta-da. If you'd like to support my work, you can become my patron by going to patreon.com/Sultan, or you can simply buy me a coffee.